Spread the fire. Welcome back to SMWX, and it's my great pleasure today to be joined by Thando Gumede, who is Gauteng provincial leader for Women Forward.
Yes.
Thando, it's so great to have you. Thank you for coming on to SMWX.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's not often that we get a platform to speak and engage, so really appreciate you giving us this space and time.
The pleasure is truly ours. So let's get into it.
Okay.
Why do you think that a party like Women Forward is important in South Africa today?
Well, let me begin by explaining what Women Forward is. So Women
Sure.
Forward is a completely women-led political party that will be contesting the elections this coming year, and we are the only women-led, fully women-led party. It's not to say that we've excluded men from the organization, but the leadership in the organization is unequivocally and intentionally and purposefully women. And our intention is to dismantle patriarchy in all of its manifestations in our society. And I think it's really important that we step up, because in the same way that the apartheid regime, or at least post-apartheid, was not welcoming to black leadership and to black excellence, we as women have to step up to the plate and represent those marginalized groups, because the space is not going to welcome that and is not going to allow or enable that. And by marginalized groups, I mean not only women in different contexts, but I also mean children, youth, pensioners, people living with disabilities, LGBTQIA plus people, etc.
And, on your Twitter stream, as you announced your intention to run for this election, and just in the way you've been engaging, one of the key pieces of your analysis is that apartheid was not just a system of racial discrimination, but was a multi-dimensional system of oppression. Take us through the way you view what apartheid did to our society, and how perhaps we've only focused on a very narrow dimension of the way it has created oppression that continues to the present.
While apartheid was also about oppressing women, it was about oppressing people who were not able-bodied. The view of WF is that we are now living in an advanced apartheid state, where our biggest issue is no longer necessarily racial segregation, but rather patriarchy. And patriarchy itself is a very intersectional concept which intersects with the racial issues, class issues. Because of our history in South Africa, class forms part of it, and race also forms part of it, as well as issues around sex and gender. We often mistaken the engagement around patriarchy with a war against men and women, and it's not just about that. The face of patriarchy is obviously inherited as a legacy of apartheid. The face of this advanced apartheid patriarchy is the mature white man who is able-bodied as well as heterosexual. And so when we say that it's intersectional, we say that issues of whether I'm homosexual or not come in, issues of whether I use a wheelchair or not come in. And so it's not just this men versus women thing. And so the reason why people should come on board and support us is because we don't just represent women, but we represent the vast majority of the country.
And what do you say to the view that while it's crucial, and I'm actually extremely excited that there's a political movement that's unapologetic about the fact that it needs to be women-led.
Yeah.
On the other hand, there's the danger that may ghettoize the problem into a specific party without mainstreaming it through all parties. How have you come to the strategic decision that you need a specific Women Forward party, as opposed to taking the struggle into, say, other political movements in South Africa?
Two things. It would be very disturbing for me, for anyone to feel touched by the fact that there is a woman-led organization that is contesting. And it would be disturbing because, number one, women are the ones who give birth to human beings. And for you to be disgusted by that is unacceptable. And our society is male-led. We may not have the title, but it is male-led. So I do not understand why we can accept easily a male-led society, but not accept easily women-led a woman-led political party. We haven't even said woman-led society. We just said a woman-led political party. It's a very small facet of our community. Just elaborate on your on your
I was just asking about the strategic question of should this fight be taken into the mainstream political area, and why do you think it's important to have a specific party that is unapologetic about this agenda?
It can't. You cannot break down or try and change the culture of an organization that has existed for over 100 years. If they haven't seen that patriarchy was an issue and something that needed to be dealt with, they're not going to change now. In fact, an organization like ANC, in my view, needs to be disbanded. It shouldn't exist anymore.
Just shut it down.
Yeah, just shut the whole thing down. I mean, they're fighting among themselves anyway. Shut it down. Now, an organization like the EFF, which is a bit newer,
sure,
and then has brought in a feminist into its leadership ranks, is dangerous because it's masking itself as a pseudo-feminist organization when it's not. Its EFF, remember, is a reactionary organization. It came out of the ANC not because the ANC was patriarchal and they wanted to do better for society, because they could do better. It came out as a reactionary response to someone's ego, that being Julius Malima's ego, that I'm not going to get my way, so I'm going to start something new. And in that discussion, in that engagement, there was never anything to do with patriarchy as the reason for it being formed, or one of the things that it wanted to champion when it had begun. Another thing, you know, you can say whatever you want on paper, you know, in a manifesto, and let's be honest, people...
Because this is something I wanted to take you up on, because a lot of parties seem to have figured out that this rhetoric is useful.
Yes, in their manifestos.
Sure.
And first of all, let's be honest, South Africa has a large number of illiterate people. The manifesto is not for the people, not for the masses, and definitely not for EFF voters. It's just an intellectual document that you and I can engage on. The real test of the values of any organization is when you're sitting one-on-one and you're engaging with them. And I had the privilege of debating with organizations like the DA and the EFF not so long ago, and the youth leader of the EFF, Vuyani Pambo, spoke about distributing land in South Africa using a zebra style. Oh my goodness.
And so take us through how you critique that proposal.
That is the most sexist, misogynistic thing that you could say. That we are going to get, we as well as children are going to get 50% of the land. And he specifically, and I'm so glad because I recorded the whole session, specifically referred to the fact that we're going to get a zebra style distribution. And he said, well, not all people are going to own land, so, or not going to want to own land. So, you know, this is the minimum that we've set out. 50% women and children, and the rest to go to, I mean, what do you call that? And yet there was a feminist in the leadership ranks. That means to me that that feminist has very little say and is actually being used as a front or a token for the organization.
Okay.
If the feminist saw that and it got past her eyes, I question her feminism.
Okay. And let's talk about, so ANC should be shut down.
ANC needs to be shut down.
EFF,
it's done.
in your view, is not true to any
EFF is
of
not.
that,
EFF is a patriarchal organization.
Cool.
And it's okay. You're patriarchal. So let's go to government together and let us be the ones to challenge your patriarchy.
And what's your view of the DA then? The other
listen, the DA is done. The DA had an opportunity, unlike the other smaller parties, the DA has had the opportunity to run a whole province. And the inequality in Cape Town, or Western Cape, is absolutely appalling under their leadership. They're the only ones who've had the opportunity to really lead. And if you look at what the National Assembly representation looks like, you can see exactly what the agenda is for the DA, using black labor on the ground to push up white men and women into the political space. And then you have the black token in the front, who's going to act as the mask for the organization, so that we don't look behind the curtain and see all of the whiteness and the privilege.
So your view is essentially that the current offerings are, you offer a radical critique of them.
DA is a racist organization.
And that only an alternative is the way to pursue the kinds of emancipatory change that you seek.
DA is a racist organization, and its leadership of the Western Cape has proven that the conditions of people living in Western Cape of color haven't improved, and they're not going to improve anytime soon. I mean, if you've ever lived a Khayelitsha and seen and just been in places like Philippi, then you'll understand what I'm talking about. There's no doubt about it that the interests of the DA is to serve white people.
Okay, so I want to come on to some of your proposals and some of the substantive suggestions that you're putting forward in this election, now that we've covered your critique of what's out there.
Parties,
and I want to come back to this question of land, because this is a crucial hot button issue in not just this election, but just in South Africa. And take us through, because land is a central pillar, one of your 6 key areas in your manifesto, how you see the land question, and in particular how you think that the question of gender has been left out of the mainstream discussion when it comes to questions of land.
So for me, Sizwe, and for WF, there's no question about it. The land is ours. We're going to get the land. But the question that EFF in particular failed to answer was, who is going to get the land? And it's clear that it's men, black men, that are going to get the land, and that women are not going to get that land. If we look now at the situation in particular in KwaZulu-Natal, where women have been killed, women have been evicted from their own homes by their sons or by their in-laws, because it is culturally perceived that a woman cannot own land and assets in her own name. I can tell you now that under the leadership of EFF, the equitable distribution of land, not just equal, equitable distribution of land, will never see the light of day.
And let's try and answer that question as we can. Look, it's a complex one in terms of who will get what specific kinds of land, but how would you differ from current proposals, and what do you think is the right way to go in terms of, once land is redistributed, let's say we get to that point, how do we ensure that it's equitable and not just equal?
Very simple. The land distribution in South Africa must represent the demographics of the country. Simple. That's it. And so I do not allow, or I cannot accept someone saying to me, zebra style. What is that?
Sure.
And are we a zebra style nation?
Sure.
Our country is majority black women.
I see. So your contention with that proposal is actually that it's not cognizant. It actually excludes in an attempt to try and include.
Not only women, but children as well. Remember that when that mother loses the house, the kids get chucked out of there too. The child can grow up and then chuck out the mother if it's a man. That's what the Ingonyama Trust Board has been doing, and the traditional leaders, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal, have been doing. But a mother with children, with young children, will be chucked out of the house with her kids. So it's not something that just affects women, the children. Amongst those children, maybe being a boy child, would be evicted from the place that's supposed to be their home.
And land is crucial to the economy. Some of your proposals also relate to an interesting forward-looking agenda with jobs of the future.
Yeah.
Can you take us through some of those proposals and how you see the question of employment in this election?
Well, in terms of employment, I would like to unpack it as threefold.
Sure.
First is with regards to sex work. Second, with regards to care work. And finally, with regards to the fourth industrial revolution.
Okay.
Let's unpack sex work and care work. So sex work is criminalized in South Africa, both the buying and the selling. Now, what this means is that women are susceptible to being violated on the job or in the workplace because they are not respected. Their bodies are generally just not respected in society, but especially in the space where you're doing something that is taboo you are a taboo being doing a taboo thing, you're going to be abused in that space. So many women have been murdered. Many women who are sex workers do not have access to healthcare products, do not have access to policing systems because it's like mahosha, get away, you know, so we're largely discriminated. And so what we want to do is to create legislation. If you were to give us leadership right now,
sure,
it would be to create legislation that establishes sex work as legitimate work in South Africa.
Sure.
And to criminalize any kind of discrimination towards sex workers in this country. Let me move on to care workers as well, because the act would be for care workers and sex workers. So in South Africa, we currently have a situation of unpaid care work. Now, because of gender norms, we are of the view that it is normal that a girl would sacrifice her life, or that a woman would sacrifice her life to take care of someone who's sick at home, whatever the case might be, without getting paid. She doesn't finish school, ends up perhaps falling pregnant sooner than she would have been as a result of that, etc., etc. And so what we want to do is to change the narrative, to say that unpaid care work should become paid care work in the country. And it is an opportunity for women and girls to legitimately earn a decent income that liberates them from economic abuse.
And
that they,
would the state play the role of funding that? Okay.
So the Sex Work and Paid Care Work Act would establish paid care work as a legitimate career, and a national scheme using taxpayers' money would be set up to pay these women. Okay. And it would criminalize also any kind of discriminatory behavior, any kind of abuse. People not being paid on time could be liable in terms of delicts, law of delicts, and anyone who would perhaps hurt or do anything that is of a criminal offense, that would be recognized, and the person could either pay a fine or serve time in jail.
I see.
So the Sex Work and Paid Care Work legislation, both are, under this legislation, is really us saying that there's work that exists now, and because of gender norms, it's not being recognized, not being protected or respected. This is legitimate work that could put food on the table, that could put a roof over someone's head, and that can reduce incidences of women being dependent on male counterparts.
Okay, so let's come on to the fourth industrial revolution, because I just want to get a sense of your full thoughts on the question of employment.
Okay. Okay, so the fourth industrial revolution is a very personal topic, because I'm in the fourth IR myself.
And SMWX is also in the fourth IR.
Well, yes.
There we go.
Awesome. And there's this very generic discussion about fourth industrial revolution. The shame about South Africa is that we lack the pioneering spirit. And so we copycat things without really understanding. And so our president says that there was going to be ICT rollout in our education system without even understanding where is the future going. The future of employment lies in data science and analytics, in machine learning, and cybersecurity. So AI specifically, machine learning, data analytics, data science, and cybersecurity. Those are the big boys, and of course, big data is mangled in there as well. Those are the big boys of the future, and I know this because Telkom is actually hiring people now and paying them a very good salary from just 1 year of training in data science. And when a company like that pulls big boy moves like that, so big girl moves like that,
into the future,
then you know that something's going on.
And how do you think we should position our society to ensure that we exploit the opportunities that will open themselves in the next era, to make sure that we're at the center of that?
So women and young people are the first to be retrenched and always the last to be employed. And I think that gives an adequate gap for us to capitalize on that, taking under our wings young people as well as the girl child and woman, and skilling them in this place, in this era of employment. This will not only make them relevant in the fourth industrial revolution in the country, but also overseas. They're snatching people up,
sure.
you know. But Sizwe, I just want to bring your attention to something. I was very disturbed about something that I saw this week.
Okay.
The Presidential Commission on the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
The list came out recently. And lo and behold, 20 men out of 30 and 23 people not of youth age, 2 young black women, one who is 34 and the other one is 24.
And just typical.
Those are the people that are going to be deciding and putting inputs on where the future of this country is going. Well,
let me ask you just finally about how the generational question intersects with the question of gender, because I think what's really interesting right now is not only are people gendered as women being systematically excluded from the political process, but also younger voices who make up such a big proportion of where we are also seem to be being excluded. How do you see those two things coming together, and where do you think young people and people gendered as women in our society currently stand, and how do we change that perspective as we go forward?
Well, all of that is part of the system of patriarchy, and that's what we want young people to understand. You are part of an oppressive system, and it is only once you are an older man that you can assume power. But if you are a younger man, because of the system of patriarchy, you're going to be left behind as well. So we need young people and young men to come on board with us and understand that, once again, this is not only a war between men and women. It is a war that intersects with ageism, sexism, homophobia, able-body, ableism. Yes, sorry about that. So we really need to. We're really trying to conscientize people that for the large majority of this country, this is actually your battle. And it's not just a battle of women. So a man living with disabilities has got something to gain from joining our movement. Or a trans man has got something to gain from joining our movement. So, you know, if you understand it from that perspective, from how there's so much intersections and how patriarchy is to blame for that, then there's no reason why a young person, be they a man or a woman, does not feel welcome in the space and welcome to benefit in this movement.
Well, Thando, thank you so much for coming on SMWX, for being unapologetic, and for representing the views of Women Forward.
Thank you very much, and thank you for creating this space. It's a wonderful space, and like I said earlier, we don't often have this opportunity, and this is now going to empower the voter to make an informed decision. There are not 3 parties contesting this election. There are 48 parties, and we are one of them, and we're unique, representing an oppressed vast majority. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hear you. SMWX. No young people are around the decision-making table. Let some new voices come to the fore. Follow us on WhatsApp and catch us live Tuesdays and Thursdays. Out with the old, in with the new. SMWX.